Well, we've got one of our favorite guests, Gerald Celente, beginning of the year, and we want to know what kind of trends he sees with his Trends Journal. Gerald, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, David.
What'd you think about that coronation yesterday?
Well, that's what it was. It was nobility. What a disgrace that this is going on in the United States. You know, my motto, by the way, is taught to me by my dear father, may his soul rest in peace. Anytime I'd be shooting my mouth off, he'd look at me and he'd say in Italian, Papagallo, parrot, think for yourself. Stop repeating what everybody else is saying.
Right.
So what I have to say is only the way I see it. I'm not telling people what to believe. But what I saw was disgusting to me. Here they put on this lavish affair, bragging about all the designer clothes, rolling out the red carpets, the Clintons showing up as though they're coming out of their jumbo jet, and it's a chariot out of the past for the nobility, and people are starving in the streets. The peasants could hardly make ends meet. The people are unemployed, being thrown out of their homes. And putting on a lavish spectacle like this is really rubbing it in the face. To me, it wasn't an inauguration. It wasn't even a coronation. It was off with their heads 2.0. It was so insensitive. Yeah. It was so out of character. It was so contrived. Hey, even Beyonce was lip syncing, right?
That's right.
And the band is pretending that they're playing music. The whole thing is a hoax.
That's right. Yeah, $100 million, wasn't it? Didn't they say it was $100 million?
Whatever it was, you know. And of course, where did the money come from?
Right. Right. Yeah, and at the same time, he's just, everybody got their first paychecks of the year. Everybody that's working got their first paycheck of the year. The working poor see their taxes go up by 48% on Social Security. You know, these are people making under $113,000 when he said he wasn't going to raise taxes on anybody unless they made over $250,000. I mean, he's taken these people who wanted a class warfare, and he's given them class warfare, but they didn't realize what class he saw himself a part of. As you mentioned, you know, he's the royal class.
Yeah, well, look at this scene. Look at this pedestal that they built for him and Michelle to dance on, and making a big deal out of it. And just for the record, man, I watched it. The cat can't boogie.
That's right. And you know something about that, don't you?
Oh, yeah, you know. We got some boogie in your bones, you know. You can't fake it.
That's right. We got some good clips of you dancing with that. I wanted to talk to you about this thing that just recently happened with Germany repatriating gold. What do you think about that? I mean, Obama doesn't want to talk about what's going on financially. He'd rather have his coronation parties and his $10 million Hawaiian vacation and go after our guns because he doesn't really want to talk about what's going on financially. But do you see that as a pretty significant event?
Well, absolutely. There's nothing mentioned about the unemployed in his whole speech. There's nothing really mentioned about, other than him saying we're on the road to recovery. You know, that's just jive talk. Right. So there's really nothing of substance. And when you look what happened, David, with what's going on in Germany, there's a lot to this story. The Germans, I mean, you know, check it out, man. I'm not really, you know, I'm not suffering from ADD, but it doesn't take a lot to remember. Hey, weren't the English and the French and the Americans fighting the Germans in World War II? Why would the Germans give the French, the Americans, and the English all of their gold to hold? That's the story. So now what they're doing is because of a going-ons over there in Germany. As a matter of fact, I was in Munich recently when it just started to hit the fan. They want their gold back. And much of the gold is in the Federal Reserve in America, in the Bank of France, and in banks of England. So now they want it back. So here's the deal. They're not going to get all of it back until 2020. I mean, what's the, what are they carrying us over one bar at a time? You know? I mean, what's the big deal here?
Right.
And then the other issue is, when you really look at the numbers, it's about 122 billion euros worth of gold. Guess what? That's chump change. In a German economy and a global economy whose currencies are ostensibly have something behind them other than hot air. So the fact, as I believe it, is that number one, the gold isn't there. Number two, if it is there, something's going on and they're not getting it back. Because let's face it, I mean, what kind of imbecile would say it's going to take 7 years to carry this stuff back and forth? I mean, what are they going to do? Put it in Angela Merkel's pockets and bring it back every time she comes to Washington?
That's right.
I mean, who's making this baloney up?
Right, right.
So the other factor is, then you look at the report. Here's something as a trend tracking tip. And I've been doing this for over 30 years. And one of the things that you learn, David, is every time when the government comes out with information they're required to put out, they usually do it on a Friday afternoon. That's when all the people leave the bureaus. Mm-hmm. And Saturday is the least read news day of the week, by far. So what's the report that just came out? I'd like to read you this headline, because most people don't know this. Goes back to the gold and what a whole sham this thing is. Oh, and by the way, does this sound like a conspiracy theory? Figure this one out. How about those 5 lovely letters, LIBOR? Yeah, you remember the interest rate scandal. The banks were rigging the interest rates. Period, paragraph, it's a fact. It's no conspiracy theory. And neither is this. Fed red-faced as notes reveal officials failed to grasp dangers of 2007 crises. This is from the Financial Times. This came out on the weekend when very few people were following the news. In the toilet paper record, the New York Times, they buried it back in the news section with some white shoe boy language that would never tip off what really went on. And you had to read well into the story to see the sham, the stupidity, the ineptness, and the arrogance of the guys running the show. I'm pointing this out not to say that we were right and they were wrong, more so that the same jerks that didn't see it coming, the same imbeciles who wouldn't admit it when it was in front of them, are the same people that are now making the decisions. They continue to fail their way up to the top. Here's what it says. Top officials at the U.S. Federal Reserve took months to realize that the 2007 financial crisis would rock the world's largest economy, according to embarrassing meeting transcripts released yesterday. Now, here's the other in this one. You know, it's great. I love that America fights around the world to bring freedom and democracy. Freedom and democracy, they hold on to this stuff for 5 years. And you know why they hold on to it? So they could keep rigging the game. Right. And so they could keep covering up their mistakes. And so because we, the people, are too damn stupid and too undeserving to have the information. Here it goes. The transcripts reveal that Fed policymakers viewed the crisis, which erupted in August 2007 on the back of problems in the mortgage for subprime mortgage loans, as good news because markets were pricing more risk. It goes on and on. They didn't have a clue.
So now you mentioned about this gold transfer. You said it's chump change, but I guess one of the things that got people's attention is this is the largest transfer. This will be the largest transfer that they've ever done. And the only countries prior to this that have repatriated anything are Iran, Venezuela, Libya. So this is the first time a Western government has done it. And it's been because of public pressure, right? That people were pressuring them to get the gold back. So, I mean, what do you think that they're doing? Are they just bowing to public pressure? What's going on with the gold transfer? And how do you think that's going to affect gold prices? I mean, they've gone up, but is it going to send it up even higher, you think?
To answer your questions, first of all, you pointed out the 3 countries prior to Germany. Venezuela, they write Chavez off as some maniac.
Right.
Libya, what was that guy's name that they killed?
Gaddafi, yeah.
Yeah, and
right.
who do they have sanctions against?
Yeah, that's right.
Iran?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Capisce? You get it?
Right.
Yeah, this is only a show. Because here, read the news. They're debasing the currencies worldwide. As they debase the currencies, the only thing that's going to be worth anything are objects of value, whether they're diamonds, whether they're silver or platinum, nickel, silver, any gold, of course, that has value. Again, look at the news. The new Prime Minister of Japan, Abe, first thing he's doing is he's pressuring the Bank of Japan to print more worthless money. Listen to the words of Mervyn King, the outgoing head of the Bank of England. There's a currency war. That's what he said. Abe said the same thing. So too has Guido Montega, the finance minister of Brazil. Pick up today's Financial Times. Read about how the Europeans are now unloading on the Japanese for the currency war. It's something we've seen this story before. It's the panic of '08, depression, currency wars, trade wars, world war. The crash of '29, the Great Depression, currency wars, world war, trade wars, world war. Right. You listen, you go back, read history. You see what was going on in Japan. They flooded the market with cheap money under their prime minister and their finance guy. As a matter of fact, the army ended up assassinating him because he wouldn't keep dumping more money into the military. You go back to the 1930s, the trade wars were going on. They're heating up now. The reason it's a big deal about Germany repatriating their gold is because it shows that that is the only thing of value in this whole Ponzi scheme.
Exactly, exactly. And we've seen it shoot up a little bit, but it's still well under $1,700 an ounce, I think, right? Isn't it?
Again, yeah. I believe, and this is, yes, it's a little under, I believe the game is rigged. Every day, virtually, you pick up the papers, listen to the news, read about the insider trading scandals. I mentioned the LIBOR. You can't get bigger than rigging the LIBOR. You're talking about, you know, hundreds of trillions of dollars in loans, in mortgages, in fixing the interest rates. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. They have the emails that went to Timothy Geithner when he was president of the New York Fed. They have the emails that went into the Bank of England. It's fact. So if they're rigging that, you think they're rigging gold? Because when gold prices skyrocket, people will be bailing out of these worthless currencies, and panic is underway.
Absolutely. And in the Forbes article, they quoted the Germans as saying they're concerned about a currency crisis. So you see this as part of a currency bubble that's about to hit, as well as you mentioned war, right? It's that's going to go hand in hand with that. That's one of your top trends coming up in Trends Journal, isn't it? Is war?
Yeah, unfortunately, and it's going on. I mean, you know,
and you've got four steps to getting peace that you've got in there. Tell us a little bit about that.
The 4 steps to peace?
Yeah.
Well, the 4 steps to peace are very easy. You hear these little chicken hawks over there. Cameron, Obama, Holland. How about Hollandaise? You know, you see this guy, you know, that's about the only thing he could whip. So all of these people that want to take out somebody, I hear them. Assad has to go. You know, Ahmadinejad has to go. All right, take him out. Look, if you call him out, you take him out. You pick a fight, fight the fight. I watched Alex Jones on Piers Morgan. He said to him, I'll put on a robe, we'll go a couple of rounds, mine will be an American flag, you put the Union Jack on. Alex didn't say, hey, Celente, go fight my fight for me. So why are these guys who have these big mouths and no cojones, start fights, and then send other people to go do their dirty work. So let's go back to the good old days. Alexander the Great, William the Conqueror. Hey, how about George Washington, Napoleon? The guys started the fight, they fought the fight. So what I suggest, rule number one, Gerald Celente's first rule of war. What we do is we rent out the Arena di Verona, the splendidly restored Roman amphitheater, and we put on a pay-per-view world leader takedown, fight to the finish.
I'd pay to see
serious.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, they did it before. Keep us out of your psycho trip. Mm-hmm. Rule number two, if you're for the war, you fight the war. And if you're too infirm or for whatever reason you can't fight the war, you pay for the war. You want the war, you send your kids, send your wife, send yourself, send your money. Keep me out of your psycho trip. Rule number three, the golden rule. Look what just happened over there in Mali. All of a sudden, the French decide they're going to invade. The people in Mali said, hey, you invaded, there's going to be payback. Read the Christian Science Monitor the day after France struck. Those were the words. There's going to be payback. There was payback. And as we say in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. So now they paid back with the Algerian crisis. They said it. This is payback. So what do they say now? Oh, these terrorists, these crazy people. No, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't call them names. Call it getting even. Rule number four. Rule number four is let the people vote. You want to go to war? I remember that wonderful humanitarian mission by Obama. Cat hits the stage saying we're going to launch a humanitarian mission. And what does he do? Boop, he's on the plane to Rio with his wife, his mother-in-law, and his kids. I saw it with Bush. We got to take out Saddam Hussein. He has weapons of mass destruction. And a gang of 535 flunkies, politicians, congressmen, senators that are only in power because they get money from special interests and serve the powerful, voting for us to decide whether you, me, or anybody else should go to war. The burden of the war falls on the people's shoulders. If you want to go to war, let the people vote. I don't need somebody to vote for me to tell me what I should do. These are not representatives of me. They only represent the people with the most power, the most money, and the most interests. Those are my four rules of peace.
That's right. They've even moved away from the 535. They've moved back to, you saw Panetta telling Jeff Sessions, we don't need your authority to go to war. We're just going to, we might tell you what we're going to do, but we're going to talk to the United Nations. We're going to talk to NATO, and then we're going to make that decision, and we might inform Congress what we're going to do. I mean, they've moved us dramatically in the other direction, haven't they?
Yeah, and they're a bunch of losers. That's the other thing. Hey, they did a great job in Vietnam, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, more firepower. We only killed 3 million and destroyed the country with Agent Orange. If only you would have let us loose more. And we only killed 60,000 of our troops, wounded a couple of 100,000 more, and a couple of 100,000 more for life. I got a better one. Let's go into Afghanistan. Yeah, yeah, Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off. The English couldn't do it. The Russians couldn't do it, but we'll do it. Hey, remember that guy? What was his name? Stanley McChrystal Meth. What was it? Now he's teaching leadership at Yale or something.
Right.
Can you imagine what a BS course? Imagine spending money to hear this guy shoot his mouth off leadership. Remember his impressive progress? Remember that other guy, Petraeus? You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that got caught with some chick? You don't remember him? He was a general over there with the impressive progress in Afghanistan. Oh, how about Iraq? Yeah, weapons of mass destruction, ties to Al-Qaeda. Look at the beauty of that one. $1 trillion down the drain, 5,000 of our people dead, suicide rates among the troops going off the charts. Oh, one more. We only killed 1 million people.
Yeah.
So they're losers.
Yeah,
And listen to this loser talk. This is Cameron, that little weenie over there,
right.
that little Eton Oxford boy. This guy, you know what he does? He plays against a tennis machine. That's his biggest fight.
The UK Prime Minister, right.
Yeah. This is a global threat. It will require, talking about Mali, a global response. It will require a response that is about years, even decades, rather than months. Now, here's the best part. Quote, it requires a response that is patient and painstaking, that is tough, but also intelligent, but above all, has an absolutely iron resolve, and that is what we will deliver over these coming years. I love that English limey lingo. Iron resolve. I got a piece of iron resolve for you. Painstaking, intelligent. They're not talking about you.
How could that little country... How could that little country be a global threat? Most people can't even find it on the map, just like they couldn't find the Gulf of Tonkin on the map when they used that as a tool. I think one of the most powerful movies I've seen lately was The Fog of War. I don't know if you saw that or not, where it was an extended interview with McNamara, and he was talking about how Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag event. And then he talked about how years and years after the war, he went back and met with Vietnamese leaders. And he said, the North Vietnamese leader got up and said, why did you do what you did? And McNamara said, it was because of the domino theory. And the guy was furious. He pounded the table and he said, you fool, you killed all these people. He said, there was no domino theory. He says, don't you know anything about history? For 1,000 years, we fought the Chinese for our independence, and we fought you because you were there for our independence. And McNamara told this story after the fact. So yeah, Mali is another one. Mali is another one of these deals.
Yeah, check this one out. This is a great one too. Matter of fact, I wrote about McNamara's lies in my book Trends 2000 back in 1996. About how he knew that the war was a losing war, and because the psychopath, like the rest of them out there, he should have been hung.
Yes.
For knowing this.
Yes. Yes,
and prosecuting it. He should have been prosecuted. Here's another beautiful quote about Mali. I mean, this stuff is, you can't believe this stuff. Angela Merkel stated Wednesday that, quote, terrorism in Mali was a threat to Europe and to Germany. Oh, yeah, the Mali is on the loose, man. They're going to get on a camel before you know it. You know, woof, they're going to be in Germany. Yeah, going right down, you know, they'll be right in the heart of Berlin before you know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, all these wars are going to keep the public's eye off of the currency crisis, keep their eye off what the central banks are doing, keep their eye off all of this economic meltdown, which is what Obama's doing here at home with the attack on the Second Amendment, attack on gun owners. He doesn't want to do anything to address any fiscal things. Just like the first term, he completely avoided it and focused on his health care agenda. Now he's got to have some other boogeyman to slay.
Well, you nailed it. You read his speech yesterday. What does he say right in the beginning? He says it right there. Let me pull it up here a second. He said, right, you know, he said to the effect that the United States was going to be doing its policing around the world. And that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. America will remain the anchor of strong alliances in every corner of the globe. Oh, before that, he was talking about the Founding Fathers. Yeah, right up their alley, you know. Yeah, and we will renew those institutions that extend our capacity to manage crises abroad. Manage crises abroad? How about managing the one over here?
Right.
Well, maybe you're talking about the broad Petraeus was talking about, because I don't know what abroad you're talking about. Because you can't manage anything. You started a losing war in Libya. There's a civil war there now. They're destabilizing Syria. Now they're going into Mali. Oh, that couldn't be because of AFRICOM. You know that one. Mm-hmm. The United States sending troops into 35 countries in North Africa, throughout Africa. Couldn't be because the Chinese are ripping off all the minerals and resources, and they want their share, could it?
Right, right.
So when you read the language of Obama's inauguration speech, it's right here in black and white, and he says that for no one has a greater stake in a peaceful world than the most powerful nation. Colonialism, imperialism,
yes.
Stay out of their business.
Absolutely. And I think it's pretty clear, too. He didn't talk about solving a crisis. He talked about managing it, right? They don't want to solve it. They want to keep it going. They want to keep it perpetual. Again,
you nailed it. They're doing the same thing with this guy Hollande over there in France. They're getting the people's minds off the economic problems.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're doing the same thing in the UK. You read the data coming out of Germany, it's going down over there as well. It goes back to the repatriation of the gold. The only reason that these economies are standing up to any levels at all is because of the record low interest rates. I just got a commercial loan to buy one of the most historic buildings in colonial Kingston at 3.25%. Mm-hmm. And they covered closing costs. And it's locked in for 20 years.
Yeah.
The only reason this economies are turning around is because they're flooding the markets with cheap dough. And at some point, these interest rates are going to go back up. The bond markets are going to explode, and the economy is going to crash much worse than it did before. And if you don't believe me, listen to the Federal Reserve cats, man.
Right, right.
They do.
Right, yeah. While the stock market is doing well and while interest rates are low, with all these new regulations of Obamacare, the people who are the working poor, they're going to have to, they're getting laid off. They're getting their hours reduced to under 30 because anything over 30 is now full-time jobs. So a lot of these people who are trying to make ends meet at the very bottom are going to have to juggle 2 part-time jobs, try to get their schedules worked out through that sort of thing. They're seeing their Social Security taxes going up. But a lot of these people are the same people who voted for Obama because they thought he was going to punish the rich. Is it?
Oh, I know. I mean, you read the headline of today's paper. I don't have it in front of me. The New York Times. Maybe this is it. Let me see. No, they had something along the headline of how Obama's talk, inauguration, was a liberal message. I'm saying to myself, a liberal message. It's saying they just killed 13 people in Yemen with a drone.
Right, right.
You know, we have warrantless wiretapping. The National Defense Authorization Act. What, he just signed another one recently that allows them to spy on us forever for no reason at all.
Right,
Liberal,
and store it in the Utah data center that they're going to open up this year. That giant center in Utah, they're going to store everything there that they're spying on us illegally about.
Yeah, was that the NSA one? Or?
Yeah, the one in Utah is a multi-billion-dollar center. It's got, actually, it's got yottabytes of storage. I had to look that up. That's 1 trillion terabytes, a yottabyte. I had to come up with a new prefix for that.
Yeah, so you're 100% correct, David. The liberals lie. You show them one after another how Obama is everything that they say they hate, and they keep supporting them. And they're not alone. You look at the polling data that came out recently. What is Congress's approval rating, like 9%?
Right.
And yet, what, 94% of the incumbents got reelected, and well over 50% of the people turned out to vote.
Yeah.
So the people are also getting what they deserve. And then there's the whole other group of people. You hit them, and everybody, especially Alex Jones listeners, know this. You start talking to friends and family about the facts of what's going on, and I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, you're too negative. You're a gloom and doomer.
That's right.
That upsets me. If it upsets me, I don't want to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on as well.
Yeah, this weekend we were at a rally here at the state capitol for the Second Amendment, and that's what I was told by somebody who just woke up. He said, hey, it was really scary. Because, and my first reaction is to run away from this bad news. But it doesn't make the bad news go away if you run away from it, right? You got to face it and try to find some way that you're going to survive through it, some way to try to rectify it. It's but that, you're right. That's what people say. They don't want to hear the bad news. They reject it because it's not a happy scenario. And they're getting offered happy scenarios on television all the time. They want to believe in a happy ever after.
Yeah, and the other part of it is as well, is like you said, you know, to wake up to it, and realize that you believed in a lie all your life, you know, it's like believing in a religion and all of a sudden you don't believe in it anymore. And that's what these are. These are political religions.
That's right.
I mean, you see it. You know, I mean, I've almost gotten in a fight with a guy one time. I said something that he didn't like. Don't you talk about my president like that. And I went off on this guy. Who are you talking to? I say whatever I damn well please.
Right. Absolutely.
But, you know, this is a religion, and I'm a political atheist. So I don't believe in political religions, and I certainly would not bow to a political god. You know, that's beneath me. But the other point of this is, and as we go through the top trends of 2013 that we have in the New Trends Journal, which, by the way, is 60 pages, advertising free, of information about what's going on in the world, like covered nowhere else, and money back guarantee if you could find better, or you don't like it. And the other issue is preparing you for the world tomorrow. There's another positive trend in there, and that is the Great Awakening 2.0. There was a Great Awakening in America prior to the American Revolution. At first, it was a religious revival. People realizing, the people that believed in salvation, they finally understood that if you're going to achieve salvation, it's not because you're following the dictates of a church or a hierarchy. It's about how you live your life. And it's not about the religion that you live. It's about how you live. That was the first part of it. The second part of the Great Awakening was to the awakening that there's no nobility out there, that King George III is just another average or below average guy. And when you read the letters going back and forth between Jefferson or Franklin and the people going overseas talking about the royalty, what a disgrace these people were. The people woke up to that. Well, David, we have the same kind of nobility. Again, look at that shot of the Clintons walking out of their jumbo jet with all of the gold and red trappings around them.
Absolutely.
And all the paparazzi. And look at all of this grandeur for the coronation. The people are waking up. These are not nobility. Matter of fact, they're the same people you couldn't stand in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. The suck-ups, the brown-noses, the glad-handers, the insincere, and the overly ambitious. So we're seeing the beginning of a great awakening.
Yeah, it was at the early days of our republic. Ambition was considered to be a severe character flaw when it came to politicians. Today, it seems to be a prerequisite, isn't it?
They brag about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, are there any other trends that you see besides war and a great awakening that?
Yeah, there are some very positive ones. And again, you know, I look at things for the way they are, not the way I want them to be as a political atheist. You look at how young people, you go back to Christmas sales. Tablets are outselling toys for kids. Little kids are growing up now, and they're infants, and they're playing with this stuff, right? Their brains are being wired differently. You know, figuratively, of course.
I actually saw let me just interject here. I actually saw a YouTube video where they handed a little 2-year-old kid a book. And the 2-year-old kid is trying to do these pinch and zoom gestures, you know, from the iPad on the book. It was kind of funny, but you're talking about people having their brains wired differently. That just shows, you know, this is obviously the first time this young child had their hands on a book. You know, they've grown up totally in this virtual world.
Exactly. So now the education system has to adjust to it. Our education system is a total failure. I say that with true confidence, in the sense that by their deeds you shall know them. We spend more on education than virtually any other nation in the OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development System. Yet, look at the failure of this nation. If our education system worked, do you think we'd be in the trouble we're in? So the system is designed for the industrial age. A new system is being born, and it hasn't been developed yet. I'm mentioning this, and we talk more about it in the Trends Journal, because the people that are looking for opportunities in the future to find professions, and investment opportunities, start looking at new millennium education, because a whole new learning system is going to take place. This thing is going to change radically. In 50 years, our education system will look nothing like it is today, to the extent that when you go back to the beginning of the industrial age, and you had all of these people in factories, and then they started getting replaced by machines, then they started replaced by robots. The same thing is going to happen with teachers. You're not going to need all these teachers. The whole system is going to change. So this is a huge trend. We're one of the few people, I don't know of anyone. Actually, I wrote about interactive view, again, back in Trends 2000, in 1996, when, you know, the computer age really didn't begin until around 92, 94. And it really hasn't gotten there yet. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. This trend has just been born for new millennium education. Another big trend that we write about. You know, I coined the term in '93, clean foods. These are foods that were only organic and chemical free, but brought to market in the best of sanitary conditions. Right. Now we're looking at a big trend. It's going to be safe foods, because the whole game has changed. You look at the drought conditions going on in the States, and it's not only the States. What, they can't bring barges down the Mississippi, they're having problems because the water table is so low. There's going to be a shortage of safe foods. Foods that are not genetically modified. Right, that's key. Foods that aren't pesticide-laden and chemically treated. Micro farms are going to grow and expand. City centers growing more foods, particularly in these dilapidated downtown areas, are going to be reborn with a new homesteading. So there are a lot of
locavore movement, right? Kind of a locavore movement, locally produced, locally consumed food, right? Exactly.
You know, you're all what you eat. I mean, let's face it, you eat a lot of crap, drink a lot of crap, you're going to look like crap. You know, if it's the same thing, you take in junk news, read junk information, listen to junk entertainment, your soul and your heart experiences junk emotions. So this whole new safe food trend is going to be huge. And also along with it, a new homesteading trend, because you have a lot of areas around the country that are dilapidated, and a lot of young people, another one of our trends, I call it Generation F'd. They call them the millennial generation. These are kids that, you know, born between 1980 and 2000, that have university degrees in worthlessness. They have jobs that don't pay them a living wage if they have a job at all. And they're educated. And they know that the future is going to be what they make it. And that's part of the Great Awakening. So there are a lot of positive things in this Trends Journal as well.
Well, that's really fascinating. Like you said, it's what, 60, 70 pages, no commercials, isn't it? No
60 pages, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. That's really fascinating. And when you're talking about the education thing, I think that's really key. I think, you know, I've homeschooled my sons all the way through from the start to finish. And it's not just a question of what they know and how they can work in the world, but it's also their attitude. You know, government has used schools, and it's been designed to use schools to control the population the way they think. It's a major brainwashing operation. So once that starts to move away and starts to get decentralized, and people start taking a more active control of their children's education, I think that's going to be really energizing the Great Awakening, as you put it. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gerald Celente. Look forward to seeing. I want to read the rest of this Trends Journal here. You've got me really interested. Thanks for talking to us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, David.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Well, I want to read the rest of the trends that he's got projected for 2013, and if you want to read those, you can get it at trendsjournal.com. That's where you can order Gerald Celente's Trends Journal. We'll be right back after the break with David Zuniga and someone who has an organization called America Again.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to oppose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Celente breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the Infowars in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Celente, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Celente is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Celente and Alex Jones.